So let's try and start making this with Bootstrap this time. And I just want to mention one thing. Right now we are missing a screen right here because we need to be logged in order to see this display. So I'm going to make something looking similar to this in Bootstrap now. And look at that. That's just beautiful Bootstrap styling right here. Let's try and see how we do that. First of all, I can actually show you that right now it's already running because I already made the code. So what we're going to do is we're going to scratch that code and try and build it from scratch to show you guys some of the issues that I was facing to kind of create this small welcome chat right here. So let's try and dive into the code. And the first thing I'll do is, if you are using my code right now, remember to do a git checkout if you have my code base. And then remember that I have the one called Bootstrap. That's the branch I'm on right now. So you need to be on that branch. Now, the next thing I'll do is I'll clean out everything right here. I'll just do a git clean right here. And then we go roll back actually. And then I'll remove all the changes that I made because I don't want you guys to see the changes yet. I'm going to do them step by step in this video right here. So that's going to be amazing. Let's just roll everything back. There we go. So now that we've reverted everything, let's try and create the code for this. And the first step is to jump back to Bootstrap. I'm under documentation right here. I'm inside layout. And here we can get an overview about how we can do layout in Bootstrap. First, we need to kind of layer out our application to kind of make the things in the places where we want them to be, right? That makes perfect sense. So we're going to use containers for that. That's the way that Bootstrap kind of decides this is where the Bootstrap application part starts. So the containers create some margin. If you use a fluid container that we're going to use, it takes up all the space for us. So it's kind of some pre-built styles that we can use in order to get started with using Bootstrap. So let's take this container fluid right here and see what happens if we place that around our entire application. In order to do that, I'll jump into the app component HTML right here. And in here, I'm going to wrap everything inside that div that I just copy pasted from the page. And I'll paste it in here. There we go. I won't do anything else right now. I'll just wrap this and see if anything happens with our page. Now you'll notice a margin actually popped up. So there's a bit more margin in here compared to before. I don't think it's that much. Let's just try and have a look. And again, you can go to these small tools right here and you can actually start seeing how the margin looks. And right now, it seems that if we click here, you can see this is the container that I just built. And it seems it has a little bit of margin there. If you notice, it has padding, 15 pixels of padding to both left and right. So that's why you see this small margin in each page right now. And I should call it padding because that's actually what it is. Sweet. So now we have the container to kind of wrap everything. Now let's add this inside a div as well to kind of make that into a single unit right here. Later we'll make it into a proper navigation bar, but for now let's just kind of put it into a div. And actually then we're going to use the second term that we're going to use for for Bootstrap, and that's going to be a row. So let's just add this as a row for now. Now the row is kind of for each line we want, for each time we want a new line inside Bootstrap, we're going to add a row. So each row will be an individual line right here. So this now takes up a row right here. So that's the first row that we built. Now we're going to make the same. We're going to make a row for this part as well to start creating that nickname. Let's just keep this for now. The row is fine. And let's go to the next area, which was going to be the chat component HTML. This is where we're going to try and build the next step of our application right here to make it look more like this. We want to do a few things. I had this centered on my page. So I want to center it. I want to add a bit of text. I want to add this in a more bootstrap-ish way. Right now it looks very old style. So we're going to do that. So let's try and make that work. Step 1, let's get rid of the bootstrap up here that we just made to prove that our branches worked. The next thing I'll do is I'll only focus on this one where we enter the nickname for now. That's the only thing I want to kind of make as a bootstrap change for now. So here I'll make a new div. And as I said, this is going to have a class again of the type row, because this is kind of the wrapper inside a container. You're going to have multiple rows to kind of make this work. So now we have a row here that kind of takes care of this guy, and I can actually show you. So this is one row, right? And then we have a row here now that takes care of the nickname part. So that's the second row. Now notice again, it's aligned still a lot to the left. We'll fix that. Back to the code. The next thing I want to do is I want to add a class of the type card around this. So I'll make a div like this, and then we'll add the class type of card. This is also a Bootstrap specific class that'll make the borders that you saw in the example before. So if I go back, the borders you see right here, that's actually from the card in Bootstrap. Let's just go back right here and let's try and add that. So a card, in order for that to work, it's going to have another class called the card body. And that's actually where we're going to put our code. So I'll put all this code into the card body. So now my chat client should be shown in there. And then I'll say, I won't even show this row unless there's actually a chat client. So I just moved the if statement up, and that means we don't actually need this div anymore. So I can just get rid of that. So we moved the code around and I got rid of a single div right here. There we go. Let's save that and see how it looks now. There we go. Now you see the border around it. It's still not centered. That's the next thing we'll figure out. And again, just to give you guys, if you want to follow along in the components instead in Bootstrap, go to their page, get bootstrap.com, and find, for instance, the card right here. That was the one I just did. Now I only did the card and the card body. That's all I took from this example, but that's where you can find the card. And I'll go back to layouts now, because the next thing we need to do is I would like to now make my layout so that I can actually start seeing it's centered instead of right now where it's kind of all the way to the left, all the way to the top. So that's what we're going to do next. And I'm going to have a look over here. There's something about vertical alignment and horizontal alignment. Let's try and grab the horizontal one. I want mine to be justified in the center right here. And it seems you have to the row, add this extra class right here called justify content center. I'm going to try and do that. Let's jump back to the code. And let's try and say we have our row right here, the class for row. I'll paste justify content center. Let's see what happens then. Boom, it's centered. Oh, you gotta love it. We're getting closer. Now we just need to align it in the middle as well. So that's the next thing I want to do. Jump back to the code. Now how do we do it? Again, let's go over to the grid system and have a look. I'll go to the vertical alignment and I want to align it like this guy right here. So let's try and have a look. It seems I just need to say align item center. Oh my God, is it that simple? Let's try and go back and see if that's the case. I'll add align center again to the same row. And let's try and see if that helped. And nope, didn't help. Sad face. But I do know what the problem is. The problem is, and this is going to be a little complex, but the problem is that it doesn't know the size of these guys in here. So we need to explain to this div, the outer div, that it's allowed to grab the entire space of this view right here. Right now, if you have a look, you'll notice that it's not grabbing the entire space. It's just taking what it needs actually. It doesn't grab all the space right here that is available. So we're going to use a small trick in Bootstrap where we can actually write VH for virtual height minus 100. Let's just have a look what happens when we put that in there. It should actually now center it because it grabs that space for me and kind of says, okay, I'm allowed to grab all the space. So I'll just align this in the center for you now. We're not quite done because notice there's a small scroller now. So let's jump into the code and see if we can fix that. Now in order to fix, we have to do a few things. First, I'm actually going to go to the style SCSS file, the main file down here. I'm actually going to set up so that both my body and my HTML tag take up full height. That pretty much means if you go to the index file that both this guy and this guy takes up full height now of the page. The second thing I need to do is I now jump back to my app component HTML right here. Then I need to add a style right here that says the position needs to be absolute. I need both of those, and then I won't have that scroller anymore, I hope. There we go. The scroller is gone. I'm happy, but I'm not quite satisfied yet because I shouldn't add styles directly. Now I do it sometimes because I'm lazy, but actually I should add something in my style sheet right here, the SCSS file. So I'll just grab this right here, get rid of it, and I'll create in the style sheet a new thing called Navbar Style. There we go. And I'll just add that style position right here, absolute. And I'll add another thing called not important, pretty much meaning that, or you should actually say important probably, but I'm just calling it not because I'm a developer. It says not right there, not important, but it actually means that it is important. It means I'm going to grab this position no matter what else is styled if I'm the last styling guy. Sweet. So that should be it. And now I can actually go back here and instead of styling it directly, I can now use Navbar Style. And there we go. That's pretty much all we had to do to kind of center this guy. And that is pretty hard actually. Go and play around with it yourself, but you need to have all the right stylings in the right places, else it'll just be a pain. So fair enough.